So today I'm joined by Kara Thompson of Faction. Faction are a fairly new outfit in the UK. They're an Australian business, and Kara has set up their UK operation. Kara's a great lady, fascinating story about how she came from Australia to here, grew up, and most of her career has been here. But the bit that I think really you'll get a lot out of is that when we filmed this, Kara was 7 months pregnant. And so she's trying to juggle being a business owner, trying to grow a business. And we talk a lot about some of the stereotypes that exist about mums post-pregnancy, about what their expectations should be on them, about how unbalanced maternity and paternity is in the industry, and how we need to fix that. So you're going to learn a lot about Kara and Faction and the side about running a consultancy, but it's also a really great episode in terms of let's talk about the debate around maternity, paternity, perceptions in the market, perceptions of what people expect people to do. Honestly, you're going to love this one on the basis of that. I'm delighted to be joined by Kara Thompson of Faction. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Very excited.
No, I'm really pleased to have you on board. So I guess to begin with, Faction, tell us about it, because obviously, I guess not a big name yet in the UK, but I think maybe bigger in Australia.
Yes.
So maybe that might be a good starting point so we all understand what the business is, because I imagine a lot of people maybe aren't so clear at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So Faction was founded in Australia just over 8 years ago, right. With Gary Finnegan, who's our global CEO, and one of the other directors who essentially we were all part of a tier one project management firm a very long time ago.
Right.
16, 17 years now.
Okay.
And Savills came along and bought us. Okay. And a few people went to Asia. I came over to London, and predominantly the team stayed with Savills in Australia. And then Gary and Bob then stepped out 8 years ago to launch the business.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so predominantly...
So you've known each other for a long time.
We've known each other for a long time.
That maybe makes sense now.
And Gary, persistent, but also patiently waited for me. So he was very much like, you know, we want to have a global business. We want to do the UK first, but we're only going to do it when I was ready, which... you know, was obviously very, you know, complimentary. And I felt like if someone backs you that much, you know, there really is something in it. But in essence, when Faction was launched, and I guess the name really says, you know, what it is. It's a group of people who come together, who want to really see change for the positive and not be disruptive for the sake of being disruptive, but ultimately so we can be able to respond and adjust to the market, but most importantly our clients. You know, we've all worked in corporate businesses, and there are some restrictions, but we want to be able to not do a file save as of our service, be agile, be flexible, and what is needed for a project really at a point in time. And then being able to partner with lots of different people in the industry that where we might not necessarily provide that service, but they do, and we come together as one to deliver what is best for, say, that client and that project at that point in time. Yeah. So ultimately, independent project management consultancy with a range of ancillary services around that.
Brilliant. Okay. And obviously the connection with you is why they chose to set up in the UK. But, you know, what was the logic beyond that in terms of, obviously, why not just stay in Australia? It's a bit of a time difference. You know, why, as I say, other than your relationship with them, why the UK? Or was it because of they valued you so much that they thought, you know?
I mean, it's partly that, but I think ultimately the different geographical locations, the different skill sets, the different markets. You know, ultimately the built environment is everywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
We live in it. We sleep in it. We play in it. We work in it. It is everywhere. Yeah. We travel in it. And that exists everywhere. Yeah. But it's done very differently in all different locations. And to be able to offer in time a kind of 24/7 global, not everything to everyone, but that kind of service where you can pick and choose the skill sets, the experience, and being able to bring something to the table that is different. Yeah. And not just this is our local knowledge and the local way. Yeah. So, for example, early last year we had a new build hotel, and one of our senior directors in Australia flew over for, 4 to 6 weeks to help us give some injection of experience into setting up that project. And it's that kind of thing where, the attraction was about that. If Gary was here talking today, he'll also say that he loves skiing and he loves traveling the world, and he can do that in better and different time zones.
Get closer to Europe.
A combination of those.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. So what's the headcount in Australia and then the headcount here?
So in Australia, it ranges anywhere from about 40 to 60.
Right, okay.
They don't have the IR35 rules that we have here.
Okay.
So there is an element of more consultancy, consultant setup.
Yeah.
And in Australia, there are a lot of project managers who like to do specific projects. Okay. So we'll move and follow those. So, but if you look at the Faction alumni, particularly in Australia, we've got 3 or 4 stories where we've had someone join, go to be a client, come back, go away, come back, and it's fantastic. And that's the kind of business Faction is. Okay. It's reason, season, and lifetime. Yeah. But bringing in people that suit them at their stage of their lives and careers, and not just we come and work for the business and we put the peg in the hole and you do that and that's what you do. It is really about servicing clients, but matching up people to deliver at the right stages in the right desires that they want to get the best out of those solutions. And that is a business part of the business model.
Yeah. I think it was Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn who referenced this concept of kind of tour of duty, because sometimes you can come in and out of businesses at different times. Yeah. And sometimes you may come back, if you've got a good working relationship, you may come back to that organisation another time and deliver a project and then move on again. Yeah. And argue with that. We'll probably need that in the UK, don't we? And not make it so restricted that people can't come and go between businesses. We're
very open, and I think also it's that analogy of being on the bus. Yeah. You're either on the bus or you're not on the bus. And when you're on the bus, you can do all different things. Yeah. It's okay to get off the bus, and then it's also okay to get back on the bus. Yeah. And I do think that allows people through different stages of life. And then maybe, it may be something like a sabbatical, or it might be I want to go and try a different type of project that the business can't offer at a point in time. But, also in saying that, we really focus on developing and coaching our teams, and, to keep them is important, but also to see them go on and achieve great things, so proud of in all different ways.
So sorry, we went off on a tangent then. So no. How big in the UK?
Oh yeah, so in the UK, we're 5. We're 5 at the moment, which is exciting. We probably my own ambitions to get to where we got to, why we're doing that. We can talk about that in a moment. But when I first launched in May 23, we thought we'll be 7 by the end of the year, and then in 24 we'd be 15, and then by now we'd probably be 25. The reality of a flat market.
I was going to say the market had other ideas.
Yeah, we knew it'd be tough. To be fair, we wanted to start the business in a downturn. Because we felt like if you've got what it takes when it's hard, you can do it when it's good. I weirdly have an obsession with challenges. So starting a business when it's booming, why would you do that?
Crazy.
Yeah, it's just crazy. All those guys making all that cash right now. But, we knew it'd be tough. How tough? Absolutely didn't expect this. But 2.5 years on, we've grown the team. We've also grown our client base, our sectors we deliver in, the type and size and geography, and we're really proud of that. And I think even just to survive, the last 2.5 years is something we're really proud of. And
tough 2.5 years for sure.
Yeah, it's and I guess it allows you to really get your ducks in a row. The culture, the tools and templates, how we want to deliver our projects, what our place is in the market, and where we want to be and grow. And we absolutely have growth ambitions, but not at the sake of reputation or at people. So right time, right place. That will be there.
Yeah. So what sectors do you mainly specialize in?
So we have some specialties within the team, but as a business, we're sector agnostic. Okay. So we like to focus on the right clients and working with the right client mix. Yeah. Things like, making sure the professional team is set up for success, which means clients, we would like them to pay on time to allow that outcome to happen. And that doesn't happen with all clients.
No.
But also
for the industry, that.
Yeah, it is. It is a big issue. And it's not improving when you look at the stats, unfortunately. But, we try and work with clients that, would like advice, recommendations. We try and give realistic programs. And our approach to risk management, isn't, we'd rather deal with all of what could happen to try and mitigate those. And we're not a post-box project manager, so we do like to challenge up and down.
Good.
The professional team. So that's kind of our focus. But, we're doing some office refurbishments at the moment. We have got a hotel new build, hotel refurbs. We're doing some work with some of the universities, which range from helping them replace their fire alarm to doing a library transformation. And we're working for a big American tech company at the moment on some industrial workplace, very secret squirrel project, which is very exciting. And anywhere in between. So we've done a bit of residential, but obviously the residential market is challenging.
Time being it is, yeah. Hopefully some of the Gateway 2 stuff will start to get released as well. A lot of people in that space are telling me they expect 2026 to be a better year because we'll start getting some Gateway 2 results and hopefully getting to Gateway 3 and beyond.
We're seeing some people come out of Gateway 2 now, which is good. And there is some controversies about the time, but I think we are seeing that moving. So hopefully that will unlock. Yeah. So we'd like to do some more resi as and when, and we're been on the hunt for a kind of residential specialist to join us, and we met a few people along the way, but haven't quite found the right time and right fit yet. So partly that. But as I said, we do have some sector specialism within the team, but I guess after COVID there was a very much everyone needed to be a bit more of an all-rounder. Whilst maybe pre-COVID it was like if you did offices, you did offices. If you did hotels, you did hotels. And yes, okay, probably in some of the public sector space and hospitals that drive is still there. However, we really want to work and work on projects that are aligned with the business and how we want to operate, as opposed to being those gurus. But we've got a few gurus in the business in any event. So
good. And is that reflective of Faction in Australia as well? Is that very much multi-sector?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at Faction Australia's journey, it's remarkable. Gary and Bob started the business, and within a very short amount of time, they got asked to look at a correctional facility,
right? And
now have done umpteenth correctional facilities all across the country, and has become a specialist leader in that space. So if you said to Gary when he launched the business in Australia, what sectors you'd be working on, he wouldn't have said that. So I think it's about that adaptability and agility to the market, but also to be open for opportunities, which we certainly are. So
and very good, capable project managers will find opportunities elsewhere because there's sadly a lack of very good, capable project managers.
Yes, that is also a problem in the industry, and not to
getting worse.
To diss my own discipline, but that's part of the reason why we're launching what we do is because, and there's a reason. There's multiple reasons why I think project managers get a bad rap and have a bad name, but. We really see a gap in the market there. And we think if we can get project management as a discipline to be more respected and to be more professional and better outputs and be away with the post-box PMs, then that's better for, everyone. That's not just about Faction. If everyone follows that way and we have a level of output that improves our industry, then we can influence some positive change in our space. Because we do sit in between the client and the professional team most of the time, and I think if we can get that formula right, it will improve the whole industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I do like to jump around on these podcasts, so I think let's maybe go back to the beginning for you, because obviously, as we can tell, you're obviously not native to the UK. So just very briefly, just talk us through your journey, Kara. Obviously, how you maybe ended up in the industry, and then What possessed you to leave the sunshine and come here?
Yeah. Well, when I say sunshine, like 35-degree heat sunshine. So basically, it's really hot and you have a cold shower and you're sweating when you get in the shower, you're still sweating in the shower. Yeah. It's quite a different climate. It's hard to explain. Okay. My mother loves it, but not so much for me.
So where did you grow up in Australia?
So I grew up in Toowoomba, west of Brisbane.
Right. Okay.
Smallish country town.
Yeah.
And I went to university there, did a science degree, and thought, I'll be a marine biologist and all those things. Right. And then you realise that doesn't happen. And then I loved playing volleyball, and I thought, I'm going to play volleyball for Australia. Really? Nowhere near tall enough, so that dream ended. Anyway, I ended up just going to Brisbane, and I say just to Brisbane. It's 3 hours or 2.5 hours from Toowoomba, and you go down the range, and you're like,
how big Australia is as a country.
On the map, they're like this together, but it's like, we'll go to the Big Smoke, and there's like 1 million people that live in Brisbane, you know, and it's just, it was just how it was really, and it was at a time where you could get a job pretty much doing anything. It was a buoyant market, and I just didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything in the science space, or I didn't know if I did. Right. So ended up just working like an admin assistant on a project, which was the Red Cross Blood Bank in Brisbane for a period of time. And I was like, this construction thing's cool. Yeah. And then I got a job. I got offered multiple jobs. Like one was a marketing manager, and I had no qualifications in marketing, but there was just jobs going around. Yeah. So I ended up getting a role as like a facilities manager, kind of admin assistant for a company that then they were moving their office to a new big HQ. Right. And someone said, you need to get a project manager. So I was like, okay. So then went out and found project manager, which just so happened to be Gary and his team. Right. So I worked with them for a while, and then thought, actually, this role I'm doing is not right for me. Don't really know what I want to do. And so I left that business, and the day I told Gary, he rings me back up and says, do you want to come join us as like a baby PM? And I was like, okay, that sounds exciting. And I guess the rest is slightly history, but, Savills bought us. I had the desire to come overseas and give myself a bit of a challenge, but that was around about 2009, so it wasn't really great timing. So kind of just stayed in Australia and worked on a number of projects, predominantly social housing and also school upgrade projects, because the downturn had hit Australia. The Australian government put a load of money into construction. So I worked on a number of those projects, and to be fair, they were not huge. Some of my colleagues were working on big new build hotels and pubs, and they seemed really like sexy and nice, and I was doing lots of smaller projects. But I had the benefit of then working with lots of different professional teams and lots of stakeholders, so managed to get probably a fair bit of experience quite young.
I'm a big believer, and I often say it doesn't have to be PMs, QS, and any discipline. I think there's an argument about if you manage your own small project, you're the one having to have the tussle with the contractors, you're leading the design team, you're the direct liaison with the client. Absolutely. As opposed to being on a £400 million scheme, you're not going to get all that exposure.
For 10 years and multiple teams. And so, I was really grateful for that, because I fell into it. And I guess I look back now and Mum's like, you're born to boss people around. I was like, well, I kind of feel like I'm born to be able to get people to do what I need them to do at the right time, not boss people around, Mum. But I guess there was possibly a natural skill set that just happened. And, I did well at school and was a school captain and had some leadership tendencies, but you don't know about project management, when you're there. Yeah. So I thought, when the opportunity did happen to come over with Savills, it was like 2012. Right. And I'm sport obsessed. Amazing. I love sport. Yeah. So you've got, Olympic year, Queen Jubilee, love the Queen. And, it was just like, wow, I was like a kid in a candy shop, working in property in London as the market had started to turn.
Oh, absolutely. A great period for the industry.
Kind of late 20s, and it was just amazing, I worked incredibly hard, but I also, played incredibly hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, met some fascinating people, started working on some really amazing projects, and really just loved the Savills culture and what I was doing. So I guess decided then to stay in London.
Yeah.
And now 13 years later, I'm still here.
Do you think this is home? Do you think you'll ever go home?
Yeah, I mean, you can never say never.
Yeah.
But I think I've worked really hard for the last, say, 13 years. And I certainly cannot give that up. You know,
Well, your professional network's here now, isn't it?
100%. I've worked longer here than I did back in Australia. And I think, you know, there is an element of, when I first moved over, I thought it'd be a 2-year working holiday. But I thought I'm going to throw myself into it as if, you know, I've got to find friends here. Yeah. Don't just hang out and clapping with all the Aussies. Although, you know, I have lots of great Aussie friends. All of them have moved back except for one. And he's just moved to Dubai. So Travis, you better hurry up and get back if you're listening to this. But, you know, there's you know, we did have that group. But I think, you know, you make your friendships here and you invest. And I looked at some of my other mates who kind of did come and go. And I felt like they always maybe didn't quite, I don't know, push everything as much as possible because they always knew they were going back. So I'm kind of like, well, I'm just going to work as if this is it forever and then see how that goes. And I feel like maybe that was part of some of the success because I was willing to really throw myself into life and work.
Yeah, I think that's that. Maybe just focus on that because that's a really important bit, isn't it? I think a lot of people do go somewhere and they almost kind of put a time scale of I'm only going to be here for 2 or 3 years. Yeah. And so they don't properly try and put roots down. They don't really try and, you know, build out relationships. Yeah. We always think about friends and family back home. Yes. And so that must be, so you're absolutely right. You approach that the right way.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
Many years later, you're still here. 13 years later, you're still here.
They're still letting me stay in the country, but I guess I'm paying some tax, so that helps. But I think I guess it's that element of where, you know, I always said I'll just see, you know, rather than put a time limit on it. And when you look at how the property industry works, particularly in London, but across the UK, it's very relationship driven. Yeah, you know, and I did need to build a network really quickly, and a lot of the people that I worked with within the first year, I still either see or we're working together now, and you know, I think that's really special. And you know, very, I guess, grateful for the network that did also embrace this crazy career obsessed Aussie, you know. And I mean, I think London, you know, it doesn't get any tougher, you know, as far as the cities in the world. And as I said, I really like a challenge. So I'm kind of like, where is harder to work than London? From a built environment perspective, I fell in love with the city. You know, Paris is very, very symmetrical, very beautiful, old architecture. New York, huge, grand, all that the newness of the towers. But with London, you just get a mixture of both and some, you know. And you know, we have had projects where we've had unidentified objects and all sorts of exciting, you know, things. And we do a lot of heritage work within the team. So we come across, you know, even like we had an issue with a floor and some slab and screed that was 100 years old. And it was so exciting to see all the different treatments. And there was just something new that we found the other day that no one had seen before within the professional team. And because it hadn't been uncovered for like 80 years. And I don't know, I just don't know where else you'd get that in the world. And whilst it's then a challenge for the project, it's, you know, I think it's quite exciting and I think, Paul, it's a tough question. And if my family are listening, you know, they probably do want me back at some stage. But I don't know, maybe with a global business and the success that hopefully, you know, Faction will have, there'll be an opportunity to, you know, do a bit in Europe, maybe grow something in the States, spend a bit of time in Australia and back. But, you know, based on my current situation, you know, not going to be going anywhere for some time. So
yeah, so obviously just before we went live, so 7 months pregnant.
Yep.
So obviously, when someone's 7 months, when a woman is 7 months pregnant, life just gets more challenging, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you're like, God, when can I have this? When does baby get out?
Yeah. I've still got a few months to go.
Yeah. So. But you're also running a business, so that's a lot going on all at once. How are you managing? How are you navigating all of that?
Yeah, I mean, some days better than others, to be brutally honest. You know, but I was in a project meeting the other day, and the baby was going nuts, and I was trying really hard to concentrate on what I was saying technically. But then I was also like, oh, the baby's kicking, you know, and you have this moment of like your world is completely in two parts, and you know, it's obviously a very magical time, and very excited. But you know, I think it is very hard. I think for the first period you can't tell anyone, or you can, but they say don't. So you're really sick, and you're trying to just continue to work because you have to work. You've got to work. You've got to pay the bills. You don't just get pregnant and you're like, oh, okay, you know, I've got 9 months of, you know, just relaxing before I have the baby. So I think there's just an element of that. There's also an element of billions of women have had babies and done it for a very long time. And probably done it in a lot harder times than what we've got now. So I kind of take a bit of, on the days that it does feel hard, I think about, you know, we're also not in a war-torn country at the moment with two wars going on in this world. We're very blessed. You know, we're in a really good position. So I think there's a bit of then like, you have a bit of reality check. But that's a good idea. I mean, you know, the physical changes and the hormone changes from day one, certainly, you know, it just brings a different perspective, and you just have to kind of be kind to yourself. And I'm also very fortunate to have a very supportive partner, very supportive of my career as well. So that makes that easier. But also, you know, my friends and family and of course the team, both in Australia and here. And they're the ones at the moment saying, maybe you shouldn't commute in 5 days a week, and maybe you should try and do a day a week from home. And they're the ones trying to get me into a bit more of a, you know, well, I'm just like, I'm fine, you know, but the realities are physically, you know, going up a set of stairs now becomes a little bit harder, and, you know, you're on site, should you go on those stairs to a roof, you know, there's just a bit of a change that you have to adopt. So
you have to be, you know, sensible with it. At the end of the day, that is your number one priority at the moment.
Exactly.
You know, of course, you can be absolutely driven and everything else, but you know, first and foremost, you've got another human that you have to worry about more than anything else. But certainly, obviously, I'm male and been pregnant, but certainly 7 months, you know, it just starts to get more uncomfortable, doesn't it? You know, as we were saying before, you know, the female body is amazing how it adjusts to the whole process. Really, like you say, yes, billions have been through it, but it's still a magical, magical process. It is. But there are realities. You know, you're not going to be climbing up ladders that you might have done on site occasionally to well, you shouldn't do at least.
No, probably shouldn't. I'm not. Just to be clear, just if anyone is listening, you know, I am protecting the baby. So, but yeah, I mean, it is a change, and you know, I think it's it comes with so many different facets, particularly as like, you know, running a team and trying to grow a business in a flat market, and you know, we're very fortunate to be in the position where we are, and having the Australian business support obviously is critical to that success. But yeah, there is a reality that, you know, there isn't a year-long maternity package that you just go off and take, and you know, the challenges of trying to grow a business, you know, not just, you know, kind of stay where we are, but to actually grow a business and to resource the team. And you know, the team are fantastic, and they step up every day of the week, and you know, they're probably just waiting for me to go off so they get an opportunity to step up and do a few things. And you know, that's all fantastic, but there is just the realities of what does it look like. You know, you could win one job before the end of the year, that makes the next 6 to 12 months look very different, or one job could pause and we didn't win the one we thought we were going to win, and then the P&L looks very different. So it's kind of approaching it in a way that, you know, you don't have all the answers right now, so let's see where we are in a month, and try and have a plan and then plan B, and we've got a few other plans just in case. But I mean, I think it's also how am I going to be? Can I actually just not contact the team for a period of time? Because that's everything, you know, at the moment, and it's kind of that letting go, but also just seeing how life is, which will be completely different to what it is now.
Yeah. Well, we touched on it again before the camera started rolling, saying that there's a lot of either prejudices or expectations about what you should do as a new mother, and it's not what is right for one person is not necessarily right for another. And there's this. I think women in particular, and this is a big issue for I think women in the economy. For you're almost judged for whatever you choose to do.
Yeah.
People will judge you for taking one path, and people will judge you for taking a different path.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's down to you because it's got what works for you and your partner at the end of the day, and obviously the new baby. What works for you and what's going to keep satisfying you and make sure that Kara is getting what she wants out of life, not necessarily what society expects you to do or not do. Yeah.
It is it's fascinating because my partner, he also works in the industry, and we talk about that quite often because, what is asked of me or said to me is completely different to him, the UK doesn't have great paternity leave, so he gets 2 weeks off, but no one ever says to him, oh, it's such a special time of the year, you should be taking more time with your newborn, and, I might mention, I'm looking to try and take 5 months off and, come back, maybe not full time straight away, depending on how things go. And the commentary, Paul, is very like, it is very like,
I thought you're judged, don't you?
Yeah, you get judged. And I'm kind of like, okay, I understand each to their own. And it is a special time. And of course, the baby's going to be number one. Ultimately, that is how it will be. But it is just so fascinating how the judgment is put on not both parents, on one parent.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of, the diversity challenge. It's not about, well, for me, it's not about how many numbers we have where or, how many female leaders and directors and business owners we have. Like, society just has to change. We couldn't even vote 107 years ago, right? So ultimately, society was built a certain way for a very long time, and it takes time to change that. Sure. Yeah. And that is being pushed now, which is fantastic. But for me, it's about how we approach everyday life and how people then feel around, the balance and the equality or equity of how life should feel. And, I totally get it on the flip side. Nick, he doesn't get to grow the baby, doesn't get to feel the baby. It's a very different experience for him as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
But equally, we're both parents, and it should be addressed and dealt with in that way, just in general conversation. Because I think it's even just those, people who have said those things to me are probably not saying them out of any bad will, but it's just like automatically you're put in a position that, oh yeah, if you come back early, that's wrong.
You're a bad mother, or
you're a bad mother, or and we as a partnership, we're looking at doing it as equal as possible. But the reality is, one of us has to go back to work, so it's either me or Nick, because he only has 2 weeks. So if he takes the shared parental leave, then I've got to go back. So that's just the way society's set up, and I think that's that you can't control. So I think everyone's attitudes to it should, I think, be kinder to mothers and future mothers around what's best.
But also, it's a silly double-edged sword we face, isn't it? Because if let's say, for argument's sake, Nick chose to stay at home with the baby, you firstly, you would absolutely be judged. Yeah, you would be judged massively. It's like, oh my God, does she not care? She's had this baby in her for 9 months. Does she not care about, she must be really cold. And then equally, Nick would probably get judged as, oh, well, he's not very ambitious. Yeah. He's chosen to stay at home with his child. He can't be very ambitious. Yeah. We've got to change this whole narrative.
We do. It really is. And to be fair, I think it probably has moved forward. I undoubtedly, and I speak to, parents and future mother-in-laws and aunties and just generally career women who are of an older age, and it has definitely changed, and it is certainly, but it's more the general commentary that I feel like there's already this bias that the woman has to be the one that then stays at home. Now, whether we have chosen to do that for a period of time, that is our thing. It's not for anyone else, but I think that would help. I think try and get less pressure, when people want to come back to work part-time, full-time, or whatever scenario suits their household, because there's lots of different ways that the world has to function, and people have to be more flexible, I think, in that, particularly in the stage of the world we're at, the uncertainty, the cost of everything. I mean, inflation held, but food prices still went up. And
the cost of childcare is just insane as well.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the country, but more so in London, it's just crazy, isn't it? It's like more than another mortgage. It's
it is. It is crazy. So I think there's all those things. We're still not obviously in war times, but it's relative, and I think it's trying to find that balance that suits. But yeah, I've certainly been. It probably won't be the first or the last comments that people receive like that, but I do think that change in narrative, like you've said, would help. Just take the pressure off and allow people to do what's best for them and what's right. But I also think the government has a huge responsibility. If we're going to have equality, then we really need to be able to have, more flexibility around the leaves. And it can't be kind of one person gets 2 weeks and one person can have up to a year. It just doesn't. I don't think that's a really balanced view either.
No. I guess equally, I can't see that changing anytime soon. Unfortunately, with we're not going to get political, but I can't see that changing. And
we'll be here forever.
But then there's also the, it's what you choose to personally do. And so coming back to this thing about it's not what is right for one person is not right for another. You've got a business, I guess, you're running, and again, maybe when you started the UK arm of the faction many years ago, I guess this may or may not have been on the radar, on the plans, but but doesn't really say you're not still ambitious about wanting to, but continue to build a business. And again, there's this sad reality that I think society as a whole just expects you to be a mum, and that's what you should absolutely be your priority. Yeah. And incidentally, there's absolutely nothing wrong if somebody chooses to want to stay. Again,
100%.
Women who stay at home decide to stay at home and be a full-time mum get judged. Everybody judges everybody, and it's
do.
Surely it's just we don't need to judge anybody. We need to say
each to their own, and
exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's I mean, launching the faction arm. I've had some incredible jobs. I've worked for some incredible companies, and I've had phenomenal opportunities. In my career to date. I think the Gary was patient in waiting for me, but also I had a burning desire to see this industry be much better. And I'd worked on a few projects where there were so many issues, and all of these issues pretty much could be avoided with the right setting up of a project or the right communications. And we've been doing a series of events beyond the post box. Some have been big round tables, some are topical, and we ask the same question every time, which is what is the biggest issue on projects? Or we word it a different way, which is what if something improved, would that make that project successful? And 99 times out of 100 the vote is, and it's a free field vote, so it's not even a pre-selected option, it's communications. And you just think, wow, if we improved only communications across this entire industry, we think 99% of all projects will be better. You think that means clients are going to make more money, professional teams are going to be more profitable, outcomes are going to be much better if we improve comms. And it's just fascinating. And I think that's where, the desire to launch Faction here aligned with Gary and the ethos that they have in Australia to really try and influence positive change. But it's not that's not easy. It's not easy to kind of say, look, we did well, but it wasn't good enough and we need to be better for our client. And, we were recently 4 days late going out to tender. And if you speak to most people, they're like, oh, that's pretty good. You're only 4 days late. But for us, we were really upset about it. We were like, no, we had the program that everyone bought into. We should have hit that day. And I guess it's that, we do really want to see that industry improve. And I don't know, there's part of me that just looks at the last few years and I feel like it's gotten worse. I feel like this year is harder than last year.
And is that, do you think, driven by, because certainly the industry almost feels, we had just blanked on the name of the Latham report and the Egan report were years and years ago now, but we seem almost further away from partnering mentality in some cases, and it feels more adversarial.
Oh, very much.
So when it comes back to communication, do you mean in that regard that maybe the different parties are not willing to be open enough with each other? Would that be?
I think when you look at how projects are set up, there's no real alignment.
Yeah.
Everyone still has their own agendas.
Yes.
And the structures of how the projects are set up, fundamentally, empower that. So there's no kind of joint pain, no joint gain, and I think that fundamentally, I think there's opportunities to adjust that, to get some more actual practical alignments to improve behaviours. Yeah. I mean, my view is, every other property cycle has been like a bust, then a boom. Yeah. This one, it was like ripping the Band-Aid off for about 5 years. Yeah. Kind of got the Band-Aid off now, but it's like flinging in the wind still here with the scab kind of there. And we're not going to wake up at the end of this year or the year after and there's going to be a boom. There may have been some more positive movements in the market recently. And I'm sure if one of the wars, hopefully 2 of them can, stop, then that may be a big impact that helps. Yeah. But you've kind of had I guess an economy that hasn't grown, didn't really suffer. So there hasn't been that deadwood flush out. No, yeah. And there's really still been a complacency through this whole downturn that we can still get a Deliveroo, it might be twice as much, but, there's still that there.
Yeah. Well, I was in London, I've been in London overnight and, I know Thursday's a new Friday, but the bars are just heaving, like falling out onto the streets. Yeah. It's like there's no doesn't feel to be a feel of any austerity on the streets of London,
which is great, and it's good. It's good to see. It is good to feel life, and we've been when COVID first hit, we still had to go to site, and we were around town when it was ghost town, and it's great to see tourists here. It's great to see things lively. I think I just think as an industry we haven't really suffered pain, so there hasn't really been that kind of those who were here in 2008 speak about that downturn where basically people were driving to site, got a phone call saying, you don't have a job anymore. Like, just drop your luck. It was really brutal. Yeah. And I'm not saying we want that either. No. But I do feel like there might be been somewhere in between where furlough was done very quickly. Yeah. And maybe back then we didn't need it. It might have been now maybe more so when we needed that. Yeah. And you look at, the amount of businesses gone under and the redundancies over the last year or so in the industry. And we've had how many black swan moments in the last 5 years, and you normally only have one every 12 or something. We've got global.
They say that's going to keep going now, though. They say these black swan will be every 10 years. Now. It will be every few years. Yeah.
You've got global political uncertainty. We've got 2 wars. There's a lot of kind of, let's just look after ourselves. As far as country-wise,
there's a lot of nationalism,
world-wise, sure, and I feel like that just filters down, and then you're kind of on a project, and for projects to really be successful, people have to work collaboratively and together, and we see more often than not a lot more blame, a lot more pointing fingers. People throw people under the bus, and they don't really stop to kind of say, can we work together for the best of the client and the project anymore? And I get it, like, I know what it's like to manage P&Ls and resourcing in a tough time. But it just feels like everyone's got the guns out. And actually, if we'd maybe stop for a second and kind of work together, that might drive business efficiencies and it might help resource and profitability rather than this kind of, I'm only going to look after myself mode. But it doesn't help that there's pressure on debt and, the funders are under pressure, the clients are under pressure, and, there's a cycle there where everyone's feeling pain. And if we sat at a table and said, okay, if we all try and not feel pain, what could that look like?
Well, the really daft thing must be that I'm sure as professionals in the industry, you can think of a project that went amazingly. And it will probably be because the whole project team was all aligned. Yeah. And they all got on well together and they wanted everybody to win.
Yes.
It's like, so everyone will have seen projects like this. Yeah. So is it like some amnesia where there's like, they forget that project existed and it's like, oh, maybe we should do another project like that because that works really well.
It does feel like it's definitely harder than it used to be, for sure. And as a project manager, I sometimes feel like I'm a glorified babysitter. And if I forget to chase someone, then we might that might impact the project. We might lose a few days, or we might lose a week, and it's, you know, it's a really, you're kind of then on edge, like, okay, I'm just going to micromanage everyone and chase everyone because, you know, you're then fearful, and that's not healthy either. So yeah, I really do hope we're kind of coming to the bottom of it, and everyone can start just working much more collaboratively, and I think there are some fundamental structural problems with the industry that doesn't help that. The form of contract we use, the form of contract that the funders will only accept, and the approach to passing all the risk on to the contractor. And if we don't do that, well, we're not going to get the funding. And, you know, that those structural problems don't then allow the fluidity on a risk approach and going, okay, well, actually, if we apportion the risk, we're not paying for the premium. So that might help the cost of the project, because everyone talks about the cost of the project being the issue. But actually, if we apportion the risk differently, we may not need to pay that premium, hold some of that, and then expend it as you need. But because of the way it's structurally set up, if there's debt funding involved, then there's only one answer in it, and it has to be a standard amends, and it has to be standard appointments, and there's no fluidity in then actually the delivery. So then we're kind of just doing the same thing. And I'm pretty sure the definition of madness is you do the same thing, expect a different outcome. We're expecting costs to go down, which I think over the last 70 years, there was only one time in history where there was actually a reduction in costs. I'm not a QS, but I'm pretty sure that's the stats somewhere along those lines.
Yeah.
So I think history tells us that's not naturally going to happen.
No.
So why don't we try and look at things differently? But as I said, structurally, it's set up that, you know, say developers, investors don't have that opportunity to be flexible. So then it's kind of, you know, we just get in a cycle. So I think
that's a UK thing, Kara, or, you know, for example, from your, appreciate most of your professional career has been actually here rather than in Australia, but speaking to your colleagues in Australia, it's like, for example, when I've been to the US a few times and you listen to that market, and it's expected that the contractor makes profit in the US.
Yeah.
It's a given. It's like the contractor needs to do well.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's maybe an issue sometimes that sometimes the client wants to nail the contractor down to the cheapest price possible.
Yep.
They then extend that pain to the subcontractors.
Yeah.
And hence why we see so many liquidations, sadly, within the contracting world.
Yeah. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, the contractors are probably in some instances trying to keep revenue in the door. So they are taking lower prices because they want to keep their business alive. But then the knock-on effect to that, you know, and the pressure on the actual form of contract. I think the UK, I mean, if you're on hospitals, it's a traditional form of contract. But I think typically in the UK, it's just D&B. When I moved over to Australia, from Australia, I was very surprised at that. Because in my short time there, I had some detail and build. We had mainly traditional contracts. So we just designed everything completely. And then you held some risk money for clashes or any difficulties. And then you just paid what it was to build it. So there is a fascination in the UK for the D&B market, not necessarily D&B contractors, but the design and build form of contract, and even to consider something separate, as I said, structurally just isn't there. And there is some private equity money, and you can look at maybe doing some more construction management, and you know, some of the big houses do that.
It's growing, is construction management.
It is growing,
for that reason now,
yeah. So I think, you know, as I said, I think there are some fundamentals that don't help that collaboration. And we just keep going in a cycle that doesn't change. But I think the rest of the world, I can't say the rest of the world entirely, but, you know, particularly in some of the other countries, it is more what's best suited for the project. Whilst here it's like, this is the only way we're going to get funding. So that's the form of contract we have to use. So it is different that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And the sad bit is I can't see it changing. And you know, I don't know, mate. Will technology have an influence on it? I don't know. It just feels like it is. You know, everyone says the construction industry moves at a very slow pace. Yeah. In terms of change. Yeah. Yeah, bizarrely in some ways is super innovative as well. Yes. But I'm maybe pessimistic about that change coming.
I think, but well, I don't know. It depends on the day of the week. I think I tend to agree. It's a very archaic industry. Yeah. Our whole business is founded on we want to influence positive change, and we see the opportunity for it to be better. But look at how many we've lost all of our modular construction companies in the last few years. For a country and an industry that wants to be innovative, I don't know how that's happened.
And it's also the future. The reality is we need to go to modular because we look at the worsening skills or skills crisis we have in the industry.
Yep.
We almost need to go to some kind of modular solution.
Yes.
And there's like Red's 10 that are still doing a good job, but there's very few that are out there that, like you say, there's been so many insolvencies within that modular.
I know. It's really, and it's a really sad shame, that that's even happened. We don't adopt technologies. When I left Australia, I think 80% of my projects were on BIM or coordinated. Fair enough. The building history is different there. So, but with some of the technologies now, you can, in all of the 3D modeling, you can easily get the existing kind of as-built, and it makes it much easier. But, I mean, BIM's rarely ever used on projects. It's quite a simple tool, an effective tool. We're still issuing RFIs in Excel spreadsheets as a minimum. There are so many things, and I think we have to, embrace technology, and we need to get real about that because every other industry, is adopting it at a rate of knots. While we kind of still sit here and want to continue doing things the same way we've done for 30 years, and expect a better outcome, and it just won't happen.
Well, the reality is I think the industry will be forced simply because there's increasingly a lack of people in the industry, and all the current trends for whatever different initiatives are made in terms of trying to improve the number of people coming into the industry.
Yes.
It's not happening quickly enough versus the number who are retiring or relocating outside of the UK for more money.
Yeah.
Broadly speaking, that's the driver for most people,
yes.
I think, who are leaving. So technology is going to have to, logically, the productivity gap is going to have to be bridged by technology.
Has to be.
So companies have to embrace it.
Yeah.
It'd be madness not to.
Yeah, I mean, and we do, as a business, from very simple tools. So like a client relationship management software system, and that's linked to.
So what you're using out of interest? That's one of the things I'll try and get.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's using.
We're just using HubSpot,
right?
And it's linked to our emails, and it just, it tracks.
Incredibly powerful products.
Yeah, it just tracks lots of information, and not just for targeting and business development purposes, but for existing clients and information, and it's that saves time. My view is if the project managers in the team have more time to be proactive and manage their projects efficiently, so I think I have a duty to make sure they can do that in the best manner as possible, and technology helps with that. So we trial lots of like some paid, some free. I did an AI one recently where it helped me create a presentation.
Right.
Just very simple tool. Had to go into a presentation, gave it the prompts, made it probably in about 12 minutes when it probably would have taken me a few hours. We obviously used a standard ChatGPT, but there are other products we're looking at. We've been demoing a couple of software systems, some linked to AI, but mainly like software where it can help manage our projects more efficiently. So we'd love a platform where all of the professional team and the clients can buy in. Yeah. So we do our Otter AI minutes; they get automatically uploaded. People get assigned their tasks.
Why would they not use something like Otter or something else?
They log in.
Yeah.
The architect logs in. Okay, that's my task. Tick them off as it goes. Or if there's multiple people to include, it's easily done. And I think that will just save everyone on the professional team time. The Australian business have trialed lots of different other products as well. Some work, some haven't worked. Some project management office, some contract admin software. But we're always looking for how can we have more time? How can we just give ourselves more time in that basic tasks that are important, so then we can apply our brains and our, time, with the professional team and with the clients in helping them the projects be better, and not just doing the job, but doing it really well. So
we must all waste time, whatever your profession is, waste time doing admin, which takes you away from doing the really important stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where hopefully AI or tech can do some of the heavy lifting for us.
Yeah. And it does now. And even, just on simple tasks, we've been using it, and I find I can just personally get a lot more out. We're a small team. We don't have an admin assistant, So, it's things like even just formatting.
Yeah.
And, just all sorts of small tasks to bigger tasks that can really help and be beneficial.
Yeah.
For everyone. So,
Yeah.
still feel like working the same amount of hours, but, it's different outputs. I'd love to see the industry really embrace it.
The argument for somebody like Faction and maybe other SMEs is you possibly, if you get all the tools right, will be able to do more with less in terms of, less people, be able to cover more ground, which might, I think, might be the way forward. And I think you're hopefully nimble enough to be able to adjust to some of that. Whereas some of the big consultancies, some of the big contractors need to get on it really quick. There are some large consultancies who I work for who I think are really on it, and really like investing a massive chunk of their money into their systems, their processes internally. But there are some are still super, super traditional. Yeah. And they're in real danger. I think they're in massive danger, because suddenly efficiencies that either the larger competitors who get it quickly, or your really small, nimble SME consultancies are going to just fly by these ones who are still doing everything very traditionally. Yeah,
I agree. And I think even if you just think about, say, business development, using a CRM tool like HubSpot versus Excel,
100%.
And I'm sure if anyone's listening to this, there's a lot of business out there. We've all been in them that, we track stuff on Excel, and it's just like that itself is time consuming and not beneficial, and it's I think it's crazy. But I
wouldn't use something like HubSpot that can give you all the data about also this client has opened this document about our case study on this thing. Yeah. Well, why then reach out to them? You can't manage that on an Excel spreadsheet.
No, and it's also just that knowledge sharing, and we use it if someone goes to an event and they learn some tips and tricks or whatever, we put that data in there as well. And we also track all of the consultants we work with and all of their information. Like it's a really great tool, very simple tool, but it definitely helps taking it off. I've had consultant trackers that have been Excel spreadsheets before, and it even just that change gives you so much. You can just filter it. Who's the hotel experts, who's performing, who's got the right PI cover, and you just filter all these things, and it gives you that knowledge. And particularly for the younger talent coming in, I think the generation to come have now grown up.
They're native with it,
only with technology that's fast and embraced it. And I think if you want to attract and retain talent, we have to be embracing technology. And I think that, again, is part of the industry's challenge. While we're not getting the uptake at a junior level, people used to look at it being a trade, or look at the professional team as an aspiration. And now, let's be honest, it's a challenging industry. And, I think with that is a lot of opportunity. And the next generation probably have the best opportunity to influence change.
Sure.
Because of how they think, and they're impatient for change. And I think that can be really good for us.
We have to absolutely harness though with what their superpowers are.
But we've got to get them in. We've got to get that generation in, because I think their impatience could probably help. I know I sit around a lot of round tables, and the old, I'll be honest, the older generation will talk about, the new generation, they're just they just want to get promoted quick, and they're really ambitious, and and I sit there and I think, why is this a bad thing? Why is this seen negatively? We work in industry that's incredibly archaic and not moving forward. And, if no one's having a really great time at the moment, both, clients and professional team, don't we all want to be in a much better place? Like, let's maybe listen to that next generation about how we could change things at pace. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And all the generations work differently. I work differently to how my grandma's generation worked, and all sorts of things. But the world was very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a reality that we have to embrace.
We have to take the best from all the generations, don't we? So yes, this new kind of more tech savvy, hungry, care arguably more about certain things, embrace all of that. Equally, I think some of these younger generations maybe sometimes need to work a bit more in terms of the way they engage with people, and then maybe that's where I know
communication.
An older generation can maybe educate them on that. And so
absolutely. And I think I remember some of the stories I've been told about, the days before computers, and like promotion meetings were done in the pub, and there wasn't like a yearly cycle. And I think there are some really golden nuggets of the generations gone that we can really learn from, and how everyone had to get around a room and actually look at each other and speak to each other and really,
100%.
work. And I think that's great. And I also think the way that next generation thinks, and they also think in a very equal world way, which I think will help bring some of those diversity challenges and some of those equality challenges in our industry out as well. And I think the quicker they flush all that out, the better.
And that, I think on that bit, I'm maybe more in the more optimistic camp than others. I've got two daughters, 17 and soon to be 15. And I do believe they will, hopefully, and I appreciate there's a lot of sad noise in the world at the moment, but I do believe they will have, I would like to think, as more opportunity going forward, maybe than maybe when you started in your career, because I think hopefully we are getting more diverse in many ways. I would like to think. I think there's some antagonists out there at the moment that are trying to convince us otherwise, and that we should all hate each other. I'd like to think we and coming back to the construction industry, I think it is, hopefully moving forward. I'd like to think that we'll see more diversity and equality within the industry in the next 5 or 10 years. I almost think we've got to be careful not to. We can't judge where the industry was 30 years ago. And then, even where the makeup of it is now, because that was 30 years ago. I think now we've got to concentrate, right? Let's concentrate on making it better going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back to the whole element of women in the industry having a baby, let's not, of all the stereotypes that go with it, and let's, try and support them. So one of the sad things is about the percentage of females in the industry is actually, you look now in terms of new graduates coming in, certainly in the professional service sector, in the consultancy market, it's almost getting 50-50.
Absolutely,
great. But then
you go to director level or head of team level, and it's a very different. It's the journey.
But I think some of that is just the demographics at the time. Yes. So if we unfortunately can't change the fact that there's a probably high percentage of males who are at direct level, just because when they started the industry 15 years ago, let's say for argument's sake, there wasn't the diversity. What we've now got to think is make sure that women don't feel they have to leave the industry because they're not supported. And I think that's often what happens. They have a baby and then they feel, right, I'm no longer welcome in the industry. And I think that's where we're massively losing. And like really, sadly, is still losing along. We've got to change that dynamic. Yeah,
we had a situation very long time ago, not at Faction, previous life, and had a couple of women go off and have babies, and one came back full time and one came back part time. And exceptional talent and could deliver projects, exceptionally, like no doubt about that. But one of our clients was like, "Oh, I want someone who's available 5 days a week," and I'm kind of like, "Well, they are available. They're just, they're you're not paying for someone to be there 5 days a week. They're on the job, and if something needs doing and that person isn't around, it will get done. Like and you give those assurities. But unfortunately, we had to change the resource on the project, which I really didn't feel comfortable about at the time. And maybe now I feel a bit stronger about that if I was having those conversations. But, I think it's also, it's a full life cycle need to support that as well. But for both male and females coming back into the workforce. And, like Nick, he went to his company and said, look, actually, for 6 months, I'd like to do 4 days a week. And they have actually supported him in that, which...
And we need more of that.
That was really like, because if they'd said no, then we were really kind of forced down a certain path with my job. So, to have that was fantastic, but also, they've had conversations with him that, he's on his path for promotion and he's got their support. And I think that's also really important. But yeah, I think we're all talking about it now. Forums like these podcasts, the conversations are happening, and there is a lot of not great noise out there, but there is still this is where there's a significant amount of opportunity, and things that were not even spoken about maybe 5 or 10 years ago we're now all speaking about it really freely. And I think the more we do just talk about these topics, it helps people to think, okay, well, when I'm in the next situation, like what I will think about it. And as I said before, I don't think some of the conversations I've had, the people have said things in an ill way. It's just more about
Precondition,
that
maybe.
that unconscious bias, isn't it? That we all have that in somewhat form.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. It's great to see, you know, I think actually Nick's working on a project at the moment, and he said it's pretty much an entire female professional team. And he's loving it, by the way, you know, and he's really a big fan of it. But it's even just to hear those stories now, you can see it's changing, and I think that's great.
I think it absolutely is, and I think there's a whole thing that society is changing as well. You know, it used to be the thing that, and again, this is all just it's all just bullshit. That we've got to move on from. So things like, you know, you'd hear like, oh, father would never get to go see his child at sports day or do this because first of all, it was just the expectation that mum would have to go do it.
Yeah.
And what do you mean? Your wife's at home; she'll do it. Why do you have to go see? Why do you have to go see little Johnny in the play? It's like, because Sammy's father, and I should do. You know,
want to.
All this kind of stuff just needs to, and I think we are getting that now. I think there's, you know, maybe there's been a lot of wrong and right things in my opinion come out of COVID, but I think one of the things is that
did help.
Probably a bit more of an expectation around, you know, family counts, and I've got to be here for these special moments, and I've got to be home sometimes, and it shouldn't be just my partner because she's female or whatever it may be to have to do all of this. That shouldn't be the way it should work.
And I think businesses have been more flexible and supportive, and you know, we've got we're all very different in our 5, but our colleague Alex is a really proud dad of 2 under 3, I think that age, and he loves being a present dad. And you know, and sometimes he'll get home for school pick up, do bath time, and then he'll log back on. Or you know, he said the other day, oh, there's a dance on and I want to go see it, and you know, he arranged his meetings to fit. And like I think that's amazing. You know, and yeah, at times he finds the balance hard, you know, and you know, as a professional service, particularly where we're consultants selling our time, like there is those conflicts, but you know, he finds the balance that works. And I think businesses should be supportive. I mean, we should judge the outputs. You know, we're not in the environment where you know, you can't leave the office unless your director's left. You know, that I'm glad we've moved forward from that place. And you know, as long as the outputs are there, I think those flexible, you know, thinking, not necessarily like, oh, you can have a day or 2 a week from home. I mean, like just true flexibility about like, oh, this week, my kid has got a dance at school and I need to go and see it, and being supportive of that. And we should be doing that through all of the disciplines, you know. And you know, we had a meeting recently, and one of the principals were like, look, my kid's sick, I've got to stay at home, can we do the call on Teams? And you know, we're like, yeah, like, you know, as long as you want to do it, otherwise we'll move the meeting. But it's like, I think just trying to, as a not as a business, but as a professional team, supporting everyone through that is important.
Point about, you know, your example you had in your previous employer where somebody, you know, didn't want somebody who was part-time. It's like, we are losing so many good people in the industry.
Yeah.
You know, and I still know it's through the knife. Somebody came to me now and said, I'd like a job for 3 days a week. You know, it's quite sad, but I think I would struggle to find them, to find enough companies who would like to have a chat with them about that. Yeah. Which is crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy. We're we're speaking to someone at the moment about doing some, they're looking at doing some bits and pieces elsewhere, you know, but also still wanting to do some project management work. And we're talking about like a part-time or a couple of days a week. And I think the world is changing that way, and having that flexibility and agility is really important. And that will help attract the younger generation and get that talent into the industry, because, you know, all the side hustles that are going on and all of this, I guess, attraction to the online, you know, influencer status and all those kind of things, you know, we have to be able to compete with that. You know, we have such a gap in our market for more, you know, social media influencing, you know, telling stories, and we start to see it a little bit more. And Fred and his Bim, he's doing a great job about getting messaging out, and but I think there's for that next generation to come along, I think there's so many opportunities, and I think that would help change the industry, and
no doubt.
get these 16, 17-year-olds excited about all the different type of brick bonds. I remember like coming over and learning about all the different types, and like I just loved it. And I think trying to ingest a bit of love into that built environment to get them excited, but also giving them a platform and a voice in doing that. I think there's a huge, I can't do it. I've got a couple of too many grey hairs, but I think that next generation, there's all of those platforms for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I still worry that a lot of the kind of communication we put out, or you see a lot of consultancies putting out, and contractors for that matter, it's all very corporate still, and it's like just seems a bit wooden to me. It's not going to attract.
There's our little TikTok videos from site visits, and I've said that for about 2.5 years now, so I can't really like be down on about it, because I'm like, I should just do something about it. But 100%. it is like, there is so much opportunity there, and maybe with how we all feel, and the next generation coming in, there's certainly light. I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here doing what we're doing if we really didn't think, there was hope. But I think just riding this wave, and let's be fair, like we'll be able to write a book about it in 20 years, and people will be like, is it really like that? Maybe not write a book, but maybe another podcast. Reminisce 20 years' time, and see how we've all fared. So,
definitely. Kara, thank you very much for your time. 2 quick last questions, and then we'll draw it to a close. What has been for you, maybe the project that you're most proud of, or the one that you kind of cherish the most, you'll be probably talking about when you're 90? Is there a particular project you think?
You're
not trying to pick your favourite child, sort of, that you can't pick.
I'm like, if I don't say a current project with a current client, No, I mean they've all got a special thing about them, whether it be the professional team, the intricacies of the build, the architecture or the design. They all have that. But there was a project I was working on back in 2013, and it was a very quick project. So Suntory bought Lucasade Ribena out of GSK, and they had to move their HQ in a very quick time period.
Right.
And my colleagues at the time were finding the building, and we were appointed to do the project management of the fit out of the multiple phases, but phase 1. And I think my previous team have just done some work with them again, which is really exciting to hear that they're still growing and really good business. But basically we had to do about, back then it was, I can't remember the exact figure, but it was a significant amount of work in about, 10, 11 weeks. Right. And basically all of the stakeholders were like, it is not possible. And I was like, still quite young then. And I was
naivety is sometimes a good thing.
Yeah, I was like, and also hadn't been in the UK that long, and wanted a challenge, and I put my hand up for it. I was like, I can do this. And it was a really challenging project. Some of the stakeholders didn't want me on the project. They said to my director, she's too young, not experienced enough, blah, blah, blah. And my director responded back saying, this job requires someone to work about 20 hours a day. There's probably only one person in the world at the moment that would probably work 20 hours a day. And that's Kara. And we back her. And I remember that moment, really vividly.
Amazing.
And I remember getting the phone call when, I think I probably had no sleep, and had like a 4 a.m. conference call with the client from Japan. And then, had just done like 4 or 5 days on the bounce. And I remember getting the phone call being told this. And initially you're just like it's a big smack in the face, right? You're just like, I'm killing myself to get the impossible done. But I said, well, fine. Had to roll my sleeves up, had to do like daily reporting and sometimes morning and evening reporting. Right. And I was kind of like, I'm doing all this reporting and not actually spending time to get the job done. But I just kind of, just hunkered down. But that was true collaboration. We were designing on site as the contractor was building it. And people were there on the weekends, and, not only did we get it done, we got it done like 10 days earlier.
Amazing.
And I don't know, it was a really, it was hard, don't get me wrong. Like it was, there was no reprieve, and probably didn't speak to my family or my friends or did anything in that period of time. But it was a really, I was really proud of what the team achieved. I felt that was true collaboration, and, the client achieved what they needed to achieve, which was really important, and it was a good product. And, everyone kind of made money as well, but not in someone just making lots of money out of the opportunity of a quick program. It was a really, good balance approach. And an old friend in the industry said, everyone needs just a equal piece of the pie. Everyone needs a piece, and it just needs to be a fair piece. And I felt like that was a really, really good one.
Yeah.
So
amen to that. That's what we do need, don't we?
Yeah, more of that back then.
We know the blueprint that works with these things, but we seem to keep on forgetting that.
Yeah.
Amazing. And then last question, who would you say has been, for you, the best boss or mentor or leader that have helped you shape your career?
Yeah, I mean, that is a hard question, and I knew this one was coming, so I have been thinking about it. I've had some incredible mentors, some for season, but my probably longest mentor, Jeremy Kingston, and he used to run bidding and consultancy for Knight Frank back in the day, and I knew him then when we were at Savills, and he's taken me from, this really punchy, direct, maybe obnoxious Aussie, and helped me in my own way, not try to make me something I'm not, but helped me in my own way, through some of the trials and tribulations of my career, some of the challenges, a lot of the wins. I remember when I got directorship and we all went out for dinner with my mentors and their wives, and it was just, there was some really special moments. And I think Jeremy was very good at challenging me, even when I was winning. He could always just come with a different way of thinking and always just push me that little bit more, but in the guise of as yourself. So I have to mention Jeremy and of course Gary. I think, I've taken something from all the bosses I've had. Not that many, actually. I've only a handful, but I guess Gary backed me back then. He saw something, and I guess what I have now is a phenomenal opportunity to grow something special and be a part of something special and see how that goes. But Gary backs me, he backs me as who I am. He doesn't try and make me be a mini him. He doesn't try and make me be like another director. He doesn't, he really just goes, okay, what does Kara need? And let's help give her what she needs to be successful as a individual, but also what does she need to do the best job she can in growing or establishing, growing and succeeding in this business. And I think when I look at what was similar in both of Jeremy and Gary is, they really just got to know me for me. And instead of trying to make me something I'm not, or try and put me into a box that fits either the business or their views, I guess tailored that to then get the best out of me. And I think, there are a lot of people that have helped me on this journey, and I could mention, we could be here all day mentioning those, but I think, when I look at the core of it, those people that are really just okay, what do you need to succeed and fail, but, go. And then when I do fail, they're there, to help. So, yeah.
Amazing.
So thanks, guys, if you're listening.
I'm sure. Hopefully they will do. Kara, thank you very much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. It's been a really interesting chat. And again, we've touched on some things that need to be debated in the industry, I think. So I think people will get a lot of value from it.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. It's been a real pleasure and privilege to be invited. So thank you very much.
Excellent.